Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Career Path. I am your host, Katalina. Today, we are discussing creating your own opportunities. And here to discuss this topic with me, I have the incredible Michael Vesper, who is both founder and CEO of DialConnection. Michael, it is such a pleasure to have you on today. I'm super excited for this episode with you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, we're going to start with the same question we start pretty much every episode with, and that is, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today. But your career path is also extremely instrumental to this entire topic. So I'm super curious to hear a little bit more in depth about it and how you found different opportunities along the way, or how you created those opportunities.
All right. Sounds great. Well, my story is a little interesting. I essentially had two paths that I could take in my career. I was a musician and I was also someone very interested in technology. Um, it made sense to pursue music when I was younger. I really got the bug when I was around 17, 18 years old. I had met a local Philadelphia artist who was a big deal in the area. I'm in the East Coast, New Jersey area. So this guy named Robert Hazard, I was working at a lighting store, and this guy, Robert Hazard, who really had a really big career in the Philadelphia area and ended up, getting signed to RCA Records. But his real claim to fame was he wrote Girls Just Want to Have Fun, the Cyndi Lauper song.
He wrote that.
He wrote it. Yeah, he wrote it. So we
Oh,
became fast friends, and I was young and I was a little bit awestruck. I was like, wow, that's like a real musician here. And I was still like playing in garage bands. I started out, my first instrument was a drummer. So I think what he represented to me was that it was possible to have a career in music because I was kind of seeing it up close for the first time. So we became friends. He was significantly older than I was, like, again, 17, 18 years old. So he was probably in his mid 30s. We ended up having the same birthday, which was this thing we had in common. And so we ended up, again, becoming friends, and he became a mentor to me. And again, I was just playing drums, and I really got, I got the bug to write songs and things like that. And he really kind of showed me how to do that. So jumping forward a bit, again, my drums it was my first instrument. So I guess it was probably maybe 5 or 6 years later, I ended up becoming his drummer in his band. So we were doing some really great shows. When you're a musician, you work a day job, right? That's what you have.
yeah.
And so I was working various day jobs, and we were doing some really good shows. To jump out to me, we opened up for Bob Dylan, which was an amazing experience, as a
It's
young guy.
incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, but along the way, as I'm doing this, I got a degree in computer science because I'm kind of a pragmatic person. I wanted to have a plan B, because making it in music is not an easy thing. So anyway, jump forward, I got a job with some computer experience and some graphic design experience. I ended up getting a job as a kind of a magazine layout person. I was an assistant to the guy who was doing it. I was assisting him. It was for a music tip sheet. So I was kind of, I can combine technology with music, and that would be great. And so I did that. And as things were heating up with the bands, it became evident that it was going to be hard for me to manage a job and make it to television shows or make it to big shows. And it just wasn't going to be a good way for me to go because, it was just too hard, too much to ask for people that I was working for and so forth. So I really decided that I needed to find something that was more flexible. So what happened was I had an opportunity with a friend of mine who had a computer consulting company. And I decided to work with him, and that would give me the flexibility I needed. I could make good money. I would be doing something that I liked, really on both sides. I was playing music, and I was be able to work with computers, which I enjoyed doing that. I was developing applications of all sorts of different types. But again, I could work in the middle of the night. I could work in the morning. It was a flexible schedule, so I could do what I needed to do from the band perspective. So lo and behold, we started to do work on a dialing application. Now, keep in mind, this is, I want to say, early 90s. I'm old. early 90s. So I started developing my first application in that, and we were developing it for a specific company, and that company ended up going out of business. And we were left with an application that was, I would say, about 80% done. So we finished the application and decided that we were going to start working and distributing that application, trying to get clients on that. And we ended up doing that. We started getting clients in the mortgage space. Really, it was fundraising, anybody that needed to call people, essentially, that's what we did. So what happened there was my friend decided he didn't want to do it any longer, and I did. And I was still doing the band thing, and I still wanted to, I wanted to be successful at something. I kept pushing both. And I ended up buying the assets of that company, of the consulting company, and then I formed DialConnection. So this was right around 1999 is when I made those decisions. And there again, it was kind of, for me, that was recognizing the opportunity of, okay, now I can own a business. I can still pursue what I want to do on the music side, and I can really have dual career paths, which is what I did.
Yeah,
So I had dual career paths for quite some time and
that's
managed it.
incredible.
Yeah. So,
I don't
so it
hear
was
about
fun.
a ton of people doing dual career paths.
Yeah.
It's very
Well, I
unique.
was pretty stubborn. I really wanted to be a rock star. So I was pursuing that pretty heavily, and we got close. I mean, the band that so jump forward, I ended up leaving Robert's band, and I ended up forming my own band. Now this time I put the drumsticks down, decided I was going to. I had worked on my craft of writing songs, and now I was writing songs for a band. I wrote a bunch of songs, went into a studio, got some studio musicians, recorded a demo so I could go put together a band. So that's what I did. Now I did that earlier on. I did that like when I formed my own band, that was probably about 92. And that's when I started all that. So I was kind of working on my own band and working the business at the same time, and just kind of doing them both at the same time and trying to focus the business. Though, as what I ended up doing in 1999 was when I formed DialConnection, I changed the focus of the business. First,
Mm.
I named it DialConnection, and it was focused around calling people. We were primarily at that time you're primarily just calling people. You weren't doing text messaging because it didn't exist, email and things like that. So so then I started getting different types of clients, started getting collection clients. I got a few collection clients that were in the area where I live, in the New Jersey, Philadelphia area. And at some point decided, okay, I'm just going to completely focus in on the credit and collection space with DialConnection. So while I was doing the band, I'm bouncing around timeline a little bit here, so forgive me for that. But what happened there is the year I formed DialConnection was also the year that I released my second record in my band, which was called Mercy River. And we released a record, and that was kind of like, all right, let's make the big push with the band. And we did well. We ended up, getting our songs on the radio in the area. We ended up
It's huge.
touring. It was hard to do as an independent band, but we were able to do it. We ended up entering some competitions, and we won this radio competition where we got to open up for Live, which was a band in the 90s, and got added to a radio station, and then the local other radio stations picked up a couple songs, and we released a record at the same time. So it was all really going well.
Yes, going really well, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was, but it's though, things happen. So we ended up again a year later, we had the same song that we ended up winning this competition where we got to open up for Live and get some radio ads. We entered a thing called GarageBand.com, which was this website that was created by Jerry Harrison from the Talking Heads and George Martin, who was a producer that produced the Beatles and some these other big time producer guys, right? And anyway, we ended up entering that, and this was in 2000, and we won it. And that was a worldwide competition where songs were uploaded and people just randomly heard music and they voted on it.
That's
So
incredible.
So it was cool. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really an amazing thing. But, we got that. So we get with that, you got a record deal.
Mm.
And so again, now we're like, okay, it's happening now, right? This is going to happen. We have Jerry Harrison's going to produce a record, and then we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Um, but what happened next was like we got lawyers involved. No offense to
Mm.
lawyers, but we got lawyers involved, and they talked us right out of these deals, and we
Mm.
ended up um, not doing the deal with GarageBand.com, which was, hey, it was a free record produced by Jerry Harrison. What's the worst that could happen, right? Nobody would hear it, but I would hear it, so I'd have it for however long. But nonetheless, we didn't do that, and a few other I could tell you, I could be here for an hour telling you stories about all the things that we had offered but didn't take because of management making decisions
Mm.
or recommendations or advice or whatever you want to call it, guidance, so to speak. Um, so publishing deals, I mean, it's just crazy. Anyway, so we ended up not doing that. And ultimately, those things all just went away. So we were like, okay. And so then I jumped forward to around 2004 and I'm still, dial connections humming along, the business is doing well. And my wife and I adopted a kid from our first child from China. We adopted a child from China.
Aw.
And then that was kind of it. That was this decision. I was like, okay, it's I just want to focus in on one thing 100% of the time
Mhm.
and not have any distractions and all that. So that's what happened. So that's when I kind of made that decision that it was time to make dial connection my it was always a main focus. I'm very passionate when I'm working on things and no matter whether it was the music or whether it was the business, I would take both of them equally as serious. So one wouldn't suffer, but as you're getting older, you're like, oh, how much time do you have? And I look back, I don't even know how I did it. Honestly, when I look back now,
Yeah,
I don't, in terms of the time, because it would be like no sleep and out all night, and, craziness. Anyway,
absolutely.
that's what happened. And so that's what really led me to really, really focus in on the dial connection business. And from that point forward, I just had a kind of a real drive to make it successful and to try to grow it. And that's what I did for the next 4 or 5 years. We grew the business significantly and had a lot of employees. And then 2008, 2009 hit, that was a kind of a financial meltdown.
Mhm.
We weathered through that and then, continued working, we continued having clients and our clients, we shrunk, but we didn't go away.
Mhm.
And then we made it through that. And then I'm going to jump forward a bit further. Around 2014, 2015, I wanted to grow the business further. So I took a private equity investment in the business to help grow the business. Um, That didn't work out so well. So we ended up
No.
well, actually, it worked out great. So the outcome of it was great, and that's kind of like, you never know when you're going through something that it's really an opportunity. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so, there was some hard times going through that process. It was the first time I had ever been involved in anything like that, but what was good about it was a learning experience, for how that whole process works. So I learned about that. And the net of it was I met my now business partner, Keith Larson, who is, me and him working together for 10 years now. So he came along with that private equity deal as a board member. And then we ended up partnering and, I ended up buying out the investors and bought Dial Connection essentially back from the private equity investors. That was 2017. And then we just have continued to grow the business from there. So that was it was an experience. And what brings us here today, at least well, where I'm at from a business perspective, we're continuing to grow the business. Keith and I are we have different lanes. I'm a technical guy. I like digging into the technical aspects of things with customers and solutions and working through that. Keith takes care of all the contracts and paperwork and all the stuff I hate. So it's perfect. We have a perfect relationship that way. And then occasionally, our paths get into each other's lane, so to speak, or
Mhm.
we get into each other's lane to work out different things. In that regard, it's been good. So the business now is we're in our 26th year as a business.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been fun. I mean, what's really fun I find about the space that we're in, right? The credit and collection space. There's always the challenges of compliance. There's always the challenges
Mhm.
of our customers have things that their clients require, which are features and solutions and reporting and all sorts of different things. And that's the fun part where you're always creating a solution. So that
Yes.
challenge that is like nobody likes compliance, but
No. But finding those opportunities within those challenges.
exactly. They end up being opportunities to think outside the box and come up with solutions that you might not have come up with unless given the challenge of that compliance issue that you have to address. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's what I've really enjoyed, and now it was a really exciting time, with a lot of the AI opportunities that are there. So we're
Mhm.
looking at a number of different things, and our solution. DialConnection is an omni-channel contact center platform, right? So it's communicating with people through multiple different channels, and a lot of the AI opportunity for not only from a communication perspective, but also from a reporting perspective, whole slew of different things. It's really amazing. So just to look at from a technology perspective, I've been doing this for a long time, and just to see how far things have come in the technology space, and then also in this industry that we're in for kind of the acceptance of that technology. It takes a while
Hmm.
sometimes in the credit and collection space for us to adopt these new
Yeah.
technologies. But yeah, but I do find it a lot of fun to go up with these challenges, and then, as you said, make opportunities out of those challenges.
Absolutely. And kind of bouncing off of that, I would love to hear a little bit about creating opportunities that fit you, not just that fit a challenge, but creating an opportunity out of a need that you personally have. Because I feel like that
Sure.
very much speaks to your own personal story.
Sure. Well, I think there's internal, if you say need, like from the business perspective, like what we need as a business,
Either
or
way, whether it's you need flexibility because you're a parent or a single parent or something like that, or
sure. Yeah, well, I think when you are essentially a principal in a business, you have some built-in flexibility around that, but you just have the flexibility to maybe offload your hours to different times of the day to be able to do things.
yes.
So I find, working in the middle of the night sometimes is a better place for me to work because I
Mm,
don't have any interruptions. I can, stay focused on things. And if I'm digging into something of a technical nature, then it's a lot easier to do so when you're not getting an email, you're not getting a chat, you're not getting all these different, distractions that happen all day long.
yes.
So, that's
I
what it is. And
resonate with that.
everybody, right. And everybody expects an immediate response. Yeah. I
Hmm.
emailed 30 minutes ago. Okay. Well, I was doing a podcast with Catalina, so sorry I couldn't respond to the email. But
My fault.
that's right, exactly. So, but no, I'm just saying that that's the way our society is, that you need responses.
Absolutely.
So it does give you the ability. I think that we as a company, I converted the company to a virtual company in 2012, so way
Mm,
before COVID, and that was just because I saw that we had a big office space and it wasn't getting used. The salespeople were out traveling, the programmers would come in 2 times a week because they could do more at home and get more accomplished. So it ended up being that it didn't make sense to have office space and make people come in when we could do this all remotely. We had tools that we could communicate with through and really have an
mhm.
office remotely. So when COVID came, we were like business as usual, right? There wasn't any change. We didn't have to struggle to get tools together to manage it. So it
Yes.
worked out well,
You were
right?
one of the few that that probably breezed through that.
Yeah, we didn't have a
Of the
challenge there. So
challenge.
that was good. So that having the opportunity to make that decision early on, I think that was an opportunity, right? To be able to do that. And who knew that, 8 years later, we would end up going through COVID where everybody would have to be working remotely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think
exactly.
that speaks to the idea that thinking outside of the box can create opportunities that can solve problems you don't even see yet. By looking at just where the office was now, you combated a future problem that so many people came to eventually and just yeah, that forward thinking.
Right. Well, that was the need, and the need in our industry was, well, there really wasn't a choice, right? Everybody had to come up with the solution. And, a lot of the people in the industry that, creditors and issuers that wouldn't allow remote work really didn't have a
Mhm.
choice. So, and it was amazing, I think, too, of how well our industry, adapted to it and were able to be successful during that time, during the COVID time where that
Yeah.
challenge created an opportunity that now most of the businesses have held on to. So it's really interesting.
So I'd love to bounce off this idea a little bit more and talk more about resilience and reinvention and how to stay resilient when things don't go as planned, especially when you're trying to build these opportunities. And if you get to a certain point and you hit a terrible challenge, how do you overcome that?
Persistence, hard work. I mean, it's really not that hard. It's simple logic. It's just it can be hard to do, but it's
Mhm.
really, when you're going through different things, just putting your head down and getting it done and being persistent and having a lot of tenacity and not giving up is really the only way you get through it. And it's interesting too, because you look at sometimes whether you're going like in my career when I was going through music challenges or band stuff or business stuff where there was some really challenging moments and you're kind of on the edge, you're teetering of where's this going to go, and then it turns out fine, and because you're just kind of you're trying to do the right thing all the time and you're trying to just power through it. And then I just think that's the best thing you can do is just put your head down and work and get through whatever those difficult times are. Um, because
I love
nothing
that.
goes as planned. Nothing ever goes as planned. You can all the best planning, right? You could plan it all out and then, there's going to be snags. So you can plan for the snags and you do that with, writing software and doing that, you're constantly planning for things that are going to go wrong,
Hmm.
because you're trying to avoid all those things. So, but yeah, I mean, that's part of it too.
That forward thinking. I love what Adam Park says. He always says, like, if you have one, you have none. If you have two, you have one. Just kind of that forward thinking of like making sure you prepare for things so that
Hmm.
in case something happens, you have something. Because if something
Yeah,
goes wrong and say there's a power outage and you only have one flashlight, but those batteries are out, you had one flashlight, you had none. But if you have two, then you're actually prepared for what could
sure.
come next. And what you
Absolutely.
were
It's good.
saying
It's good
about,
advice.
yeah, I love Adam's advice. He is full of really good quotes.
Yeah. He,
Maybe
he has
that's
good
part of the reason
quotes.
I'm so big on quotes too. And what you were saying just there reminded me not necessarily of a quote, but of a visual that I've seen a lot when people talk about careers and showing up and resilience. And it's this idea of like a meter of like your motivation may be huge on different days and like minimal on other days. So you can't always go off of just pure motivation. What actually makes the change is what you were saying, that persistence. It doesn't matter if you're inspired today and not inspired tomorrow. If you just show up every day, whether that's for your career, whether that's for your workouts, whether that's, for any aspect of your life, it's that
Sure.
showing up and being persistent.
Absolutely. You gotta show up to do what you're there to do, and I'm a true believer in you kinda set your motivation. Like, if you wake up and you say, "This is gonna be a bad day," it's gonna
Mm,
be a bad day because 'cause you've just set it up to be a bad day. But if you set it up and say, "Hey, this is gonna be a great day, and I'm just gonna, you know, muster the energy. I'm tired. I can't see straight. I'm tired." But if I buy into that, then that's what's gonna happen. So if I
yeah.
try to counter it with, okay, I might be tired, but I'm not gonna be tired. I'm not tired, and talk myself right out of it. That usually works for me anyway. I mean, it's like a mental thing, but I find that
Yeah.
it works pretty well.
It's that reframing, just like how you take a challenge and you reframe it as an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So speaking
That's
of
that's a
which,
business thing, that's a business thing though. The opportunities. Oh, there's a problem. No, it's an opportunity.
well, it could be in your personal life too. If you notice, like, hey, I'm not very good at whatever it is, cooking. Hey, it's an
Right.
opportunity to learn. Get
That's
better at it.
right. Yeah, exactly. Get better. Take a cooking class.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
seeing challenges as opportunities is one way to find those different opportunities. But is there any other way to kind of seek out or create opportunities for yourself?
I think trying to think ahead a little bit, is the way that you can create opportunities, where you can maybe see whether, in industry, like in our industry, we're seeing where the industry is going, seeing and being ahead of that curve rather than behind it.
Yes.
That's not always easy because
Mhm.
you're working every day, you're servicing your customers and they have their current needs and all that. So getting ahead of that sometimes is a challenge. That's what you want to do, right? You want to be ahead of the curve and have solutions that people are looking for next year, not the ones they're
Mhm.
looking for this year. So
Especially
that's
with technology.
with technology. It changes so fast, and it becomes, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's really not much more to say. That it's constantly changing, and then you have to change with it. And, hopefully you'll have a solution that somebody wants or you're adding to it. Because, over the years, I mean, there was a point in DialConnection where we were just a dialer. We're way more than that now. but that came with the need of recognizing that there's other communication channels. And who knows what other communication channels there'll be in 5 years. I don't know
Mhm.
what else they could do, but you never know. Something else is going to come about, where you have to have that as part of your process for reaching out to people, coming up with.
Yeah. So, in short, it sounds like you can create opportunities that fit for you, whether that's because you need flexibility or just where your life is at the time. And you can find them through challenges or through looking to the future. And as long as you show up with that consistency and perseverance, that is the best way to have those opportunities become a success.
Yeah, and hard work.
And hard work.
Hard
Absolutely.
work.
Totally agree with you.
I'm a hard work. So
Yes.
so
Well,
yeah.
Michael, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. This is actually all the time we have. I can't believe it. It went
Okay.
by so fast, but it was such a
I talk too
pleasure.
much, I'm sure. I'm sure I talk too
No,
much, but
not at all. I adored hearing your story, and I'm actually really curious. Is there anywhere we can listen to your music today?
soon there will be. Was a bad technologist a few years back, and I lost the domain for my band, but I got
Ooh.
it back. I'm putting back so I have a bunch of music that we released music and music that we recorded with some really big time producers and engineers, and that sounds great, and that I hope people would like. So I'm putting up an archive site that'll be mercyriver.com, and that'll be music. So it's going to take me a while because I have no time. Over the summer, I had my oldest go through and scan a bunch of pictures of old pictures from the band stuff and the
Mhm.
band days. So I have a lot of that electronically, in a digitized format, and we'll be working on getting all the music and stuff up there as well. So yeah, so probably in uh, maybe 6 months I'll have something up there. But if I
Fair.
get something sooner, maybe I'll start simple and I won't try to make it perfect, and I'll just try to get
Mm.
some pictures up there and some music up there, and then that way we can share it and people can hear it.
Yeah, I would love to hear it. Once you get it up, please let me know. I would love to hear it. Anybody else, if you remember that band name and everything he said, jot it down, check it out in about 6 months' time from when we post this.
Right,
But
right.
Michael, it has been so incredible to hear your story, hear all these opportunities you created, and how you went about it. Thank you so much for coming on today. I so appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, and to anybody who doesn't know Michael and you are in the industry, he is a wealth of knowledge, an incredible person to know. Go ahead, find him on LinkedIn, connect with him, and hopefully hear his music in about 6 months. But thank you,
Maybe I'll put it
everybody.
on LinkedIn.
Yes, there you go. That'll be shared on LinkedIn.
Right,
But
there
thank
we
you,
go.
everybody, so much for watching the episode. We appreciate you. If you have any questions, comments, or any topics that you would like to see us discuss at some point, put it in the comments. We will do our best to get to all of them. And then we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.